As the autumn garden moves into winter, I still feel that very strong connection to nature. I see the beauty in what might be imperfect to others. I recognise and accept the transience of everything around. When walking round, I realise this is Wabi-Sabi. Hi, this is Kylie. Welcome to my studio. In this video, I will be working on page 45 of my Accordion Concertina journal. When I sat down at my work table, I still had this philosophy, I suppose, of Wabi-Sabi in my mind and realised it's probably one of the reasons I love scraps. I love the fact there's little bits left over that still have a beauty and a value to me. There's something about just plain brown paper that I love, and there's something about all those lovely little scraps, tiny marks on them, left over from other projects, from gel prints or whatever. I knew that I needed to work in silence today. I just felt that need, and that's why I'm doing a voiceover for this video. So I simply started by taking some of the brown paper packaging that I always save and sometimes use as an underpaper and just gluing it to each side of my page for page 45 of my journal. I didn't rush it, I just took my time. So all I do here is I turn the card over and glue it down. Once that's done, I'll do the same on the other side. And because the card still felt a little bit flimsy, I actually decided to put a second layer of the same paper down. In a moment or two, I'll show you some gel print pages that I have. It was gel prints on tissue. These had all come from simply cleaning the gel plate off, putting a layer of whatever down and then lifting the paint that was stuck to the gel plate off. But again, as I looked at them, and I've had them sitting on my work table for a few days now, there was just a beauty in them that I really loved, and so I wanted to use them today. In thinking about Wabi-Sabi and looking at these pieces of paper that some people might throw away, though I know a lot of you would not do that, I then started to think about Kintsugi, the golden repair or golden joinery, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery, mended by using gold and creating beautiful new pieces of art and still useful pottery from broken pieces. And so I wanted to take all my little lovely scraps and gel prints, etc., and reflect Kintsugi in the page that I was creating. So the Wabi-Sabi, in a sense, with the background, the appreciation of something so simple as brown packaging paper, and then the Kintsugi in the decoration that I will put onto my page. And I did my usual, just tearing off the excess paper using a ruler and not minding if the edges were rough. In fact, that is my absolute preference for these pages. I like that kind of natural feel to them. So I put another layer of the brown paper on each of the other sides. And these are the papers I'd had sitting about on my desk. As I say, simple gel prints that had really just been about cleaning off the gel plate. That one I think I'd used a couple of weeks ago. And these to me were just beautiful. As gel prints, they were not perfect, as gel prints often are, but they were unique. And there was a beauty in them in terms of the colours, etc., that I just love. I had this little round cut-out piece of paper, a punched piece of paper. I'd put the paper behind tissue a few weeks ago just so that the tissue didn't tear when I punched it out, and I decided that would be a good base for what will become my focal point. I decided I'd take several papers from my little tin. These pieces are all getting quite small now, probably started off bigger at some point, but I just won't throw any away. So I decided I'd take a few of these and simply glue these down, again using the glue stick. And again you'll see that I wasn't hurrying. I found this very relaxing, and basically I was just going to use the circle shape to get everything down. So as I do this, I'll leave you for just a moment. I'll let you see the full process, and I'll come back in once I've stuck these down. Once I'd stuck everything down, I used some scissors just to roughly cut some of the overhang off. Again, I didn't mind there being some rough edges, I just didn't want the kind of angular edges on this. So once that was done, I decided that I would take my background page and just add some little ink splashes to it. I just felt that it was slightly, that there was some marks on it, not a lot, but a few little marks on it. I didn't want to put a lot of water down onto the ink as I usually do, so all I did was to take some of my sepia ink added a little water to it. I then took a fan brush, and you'll see me just dip that in there in a moment, and I literally just splattered some of this over the brown paper. Now the brown paper actually ended up absorbing a lot of it, but I just felt that added just a little bit more to the background since there had already been some marks on the page. I just did that to the other side. I didn't even dry it. It was such a light coat that I didn't even bother drying it. But at this point, I then put the page to the side until I'm ready to come back to it. I felt certain that I was going to put down another layer of scraps using the tissue paper. I put down the layer of scraps underneath as I wasn't sure if some of it would show through the kind of transparent parts of the paper, the tissue paper, when it was down. So I decided I wanted to unify this a little bit, and I used this autumn gold ink. Again, I didn't use water here. I just put down a little drop and then spread it round with my finger. My bottle is getting close to being finished, so I wasn't getting a lot of ink out at any one point in time. And you'll see that I also just take my finger around the edge of it. I will need to replace this ink soon because this, although I've not used it for a while, is actually one of my favourite colours of ink. So again, just rubbing that round, and it just means that if anything shows through, it might also have this kind of nice glow of the autumn gold. And sorry, a little bit off the screen there. I think I'd moved my work table a bit and it wasn't quite in line with my filming setup all the time. I gave it a quick dry, and then I decided that I would put a layer of the gel printed tissue paper on. So all I'm doing at the moment is trying to tear little pieces off from that. And sorry, I had the camera zoomed in so you can't quite see me tearing it all the time, but I really am just tearing little sections out where I liked the colour or whatever. I didn't want to go for the bit that had a lot of gold on it. I didn't mind little bits of gold being in there, but since I would be adding more gold later, I didn't want to bring that in at that time. So again, I will just leave you for a moment or two while I glue these down. I do in fact glue these down using the glitter glue, which dries clear. Actually, that's not quite correct. I used gel matte medium at this stage. Once glued down, I again just roughly cut the edges. I did not want it to be perfect. I left it for a few minutes, made a cup of coffee and gave it a quick dry with the heat tool. So at this point I wanted to add gold, but I wanted to do it in the style of Kintsugi, and so I took the piece that I had just created and started to tear it into smaller pieces. Now I did try to be careful here to make sure that I kept all the pieces in the same position, and I suppose that's the thing, if anybody's ever tried to mend broken pottery or something like it, getting the pieces back in the same way is part of the, is one of the hardest parts of the job. So I've now taken my page and I'm just looking roughly at how I'll lay them down, looking there at the fact that because there's layers of paper, some layers tore slightly differently, so the bottom layer tore in a different way to the upper layer. So just looking at where I perhaps wanted to make overlaps or whatever. So at this point I do use the art glitter glue, which dries clear, to put these down and into place. And then after that you will see me take some of the Arteza gold paint that I put around the edge as well, and I just use a small brush to paint in the lines. So I'm going to leave you again just so that you can watch this. As I say, I created this in a very quiet environment today. I could just hear, I call them my birds, of course they're not my birds, but I like to think of them as my birds because I look after them. So I could hear them singing away in the background, chirping away, and yeah, it was just nice and peaceful. In case you wonder, I now try and mark when I'm playing music and when the music's ending. That's simply because I've become aware over the years that some people are kind of hypersensitive to music suddenly starting. They would rather listen in silence than hear the actual music. So I just try and give warning now as to when the music will start, and also to let them know when it's ending and when I'm going to start chatting again. So this basically is my page. Again, a very simple page, but very much with Wabi-Sabi in mind and thinking about that beautiful art of Kintsugi. It is much more beautiful, the pieces that you see. I am doing this in under 30 minutes. I'd love to do a bigger piece, taking more time with it, but for the purposes of my accordion concertina book, this is just the right kind of scale of what I want to do, both in terms of size, but also in terms of the length of time that the page takes me. I don't time myself, but I have realised that most of these pages are taking me around about 25 to 30 minutes. I've been able to cut out a couple of little bits today, just where if I'd been talking at the time of filming, it would have just been kind of downtime. But by the same token, I haven't taken out anything of my process, although I will here, as usual, just show you how I start to do the lining of the page with the gold paint. And yeah, you don't need to see all that, and I'll just show you it at the very end. So I do hope you've enjoyed this, and if you're joining in, I hope this is a page you will enjoy creating. So hoping to have some extra videos coming soon, so please watch out for those. And I do hope that you've enjoyed this one. And if you've made it right to the end here, then I can't say how much I appreciate you being here. So thanks so much, everyone. Do take care. Bye for now.